Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Lewis Speaks 2024, and today I want to talk to you all about reconciliation. Sometimes reconciliation can be very difficult with certain people because you realize that with certain people, they're not genuine. There is no behavior change, there's just nothing but excuses, justifications, rationalizations as to why they want to continue their toxic behaviors. And the thing about it is this: you want to reconcile with them, you want to build a bridge over those troubled waters. But the reality is, oftentimes people try and manipulate you. And how do you know that they're manipulating you, or at least trying to? Is because they don't want to change. They want to continue their poor behaviors. Also, a lot of people in this day and age, they want to be understood, but they don't want to understand anybody else. They want everybody to understand their way of thinking, but they don't want to understand another person's way of thinking. And I think it's that lack of understanding that really interferes with genuine reconciliation. I know that some people do performative reconciliation where they just deny and pretend like everything's okay, and they just go about their business just pretending to be okay with certain people. But me personally, I don't like that. It's emotionally inauthentic. It's also dishonoring your true feelings. You know that there's some issues roiling underneath the surface, and yet and still you just deny those issues and just put on this plastic smile and act like everything's okay. Like, that to me is just kind of, that's fake, that's phony, that's just inauthentic. I've realized that even with certain family members, they have very, very strong denial systems. They minimize the extent and the gravity of their dysfunction. And so I realized that they lack the insight necessary in order to take ownership. And so I've had to distance myself from these people because I realize as I get older, I can't continue to deal with people who refuse to acknowledge their dysfunction. I can't. If you constantly make excuses for your poor behavior, try and justify, try to gloss over your dysfunctional behavior, I have to let you go. I have to basically distance myself from you because I can't deal with people who don't want to change. You know, you can't fix what you don't acknowledge exists. And if you continue to live in denial and you continue to maintain these strong denial systems, that's fine. I realize that a lot of people in this day and age, they they have a lot of supportive delusions because to really admit the truth about certain things is too much for their ego to withstand. And so they have to engage in supportive delusion making in their mind as a way to maintain their motivation to get out of bed in the morning, for them to function. They require this. A lot of us do this. I do this. Let's be honest. I do it too. We have a lot of supportive delusions that we have to nurse in our minds because to really face the truth about life, just sober, head on, it can be a bit much. It can be a bit much. This is why people use alcohol, they use drugs, they use sex, they use food, they use prescription medication, they use work, they use technology because life can be too much. But here's the thing: there comes a point where constantly deluding yourself interferes with daily functioning. There comes a point where it starts to affect your relationships, your work, just every domain of your life. Living in the Lulu world. So there comes a point where you have to actually acknowledge the truth. And especially in relationships, if you want to reconcile, and I mean genuine reconciliation, not this performative reconciliation where you both just pretend nothing happened and you both just bury your head in the sand and just turn a blind eye to dysfunction in order to relate. Nah, that's not genuine reconciliation. Genuine reconciliation requires ownership. It requires both parties to take ownership, or in some cases, one party. You have to be willing to own the ways in which you function in the world. You have to own your dysfunction. And I think that's what my issue is, when people don't want to take ownership, genuine ownership, and try to make amends. How can we fix this? How can we fix this? A lot of people just want to blame. It's everybody else's fault. It's everybody else's fault. They never want to look inward. Introspection is the key. But once again, there's a lot of people that don't have the capacity for introspection because they have low ego strength. You know, your ego protects you. You know, your ego is your protection system, right? And a lot of people have low ego strength, which means that any small criticism, they can't tolerate it. They cannot handle the slightest bit of criticism. It sends them into a deep depression. They spiral out of control. They cannot tolerate constructive criticism. Can't do it. And so what ends up happening is that nothing gets resolved. You just bury a lot of hurt feelings underneath. And what I've learned is feelings buried alive never die. What they do is just breed resentments. And this is why a lot of people, you know, they turn to alcohol, drugs, and all these other substances, because they buried so much of their emotions under this mask, this false presentation. And so when they have to get real with themselves, it's too much for them to handle. And so true reconciliation, honest, genuine reconciliation, requires people to take ownership, requires people to suspend their own denial system and accept the truth. You have to be willing to suspend your ego for the sake of truth. A lot of people say they can handle the truth, but can they? Can they really? Can you really handle the truth? Especially when it's a truth that irritates your ego and that irritates your demons. You know? A lot of people don't like you because you irritate their demons. You make them accountable. You encourage them to take accountability and responsibility for their actions. That's why they're pissed at you. They can't deal with you because they refuse to own their nonsense. So reconciliation stays pending, always. As long as people refuse to take ownership, reconciliation becomes an impossibility and stays pending. So there's a lot of people now, you know, that continue to carry resentments towards other people. And on the surface, they smile, they pretend they're okay with this person, but they're not. That's why there's so many friends right now who are just frenemies, because they have all these hidden resentments that they're still nursing. You know, I had friends in the past where I didn't like what they did. I didn't feel safe confronting them because I knew that it would mean the end of a friendship, and I didn't want that to happen. So I just went ahead and just dragged my resentments around. I'm not doing that no more. I learned that, to be honest, when you have to harbor resentments in a friendship, in a relationship, that means the relationship or friendship is over. It's over. That's the beginning of the end. If you can't openly communicate your feelings, your gripes, your concerns to somebody that you call a friend or a partner, nah, that person is not for you. In my future relationships, I realized that it's very important to me to be able to confront people about things that bother me about the relationship, right? And if I can't confront you about what bothers me in this relationship, then I'm not going to be with you. It's just that simple. Can't do it. I have to be able to comfortably confide in you. And you have to be willing to hold space for my feelings the same way that you want me to hold space for yours. So if we can't hold each other, nurture one another, it ain't authentic. It's just counterfeit. It's just us going through motions for the sake of not being alone, for the sake of maintaining a fallacy. Nah. So true reconciliation, when it's true, can withstand constructive feedback. It can withstand that. It doesn't run away from it. It realizes that that constructive feedback is necessary, that conflict is necessary in order to build and grow. I'm learning that there's nothing wrong with conflict. In fact, conflict can really help you just air out the resentment. It can also help you to build. How you work through the conflict will determine the strength of your relationships. So, if you want to reconcile, if you have a person in your life that you want to reconcile with, you have to ask yourself, for one, is it safe to? Are they able to appreciate? Because a lot of times they're not. They just don't have the capacity to hold you. Can they hold space for your feelings? Do they have the capacity to appreciate your efforts at reconciliation? If you find that they don't and that is pointless, you're going to have to make peace with the fact that reconciliation may not be a possibility right now, but maybe in the future, after they've grown and developed some ego strength, maybe in the future that's a possibility. But for right now, it might not be. So you have to just take heart in that and just work on your own skills. Work on reassuring yourself. Work on validating yourself. Work on pouring into yourself and becoming a better version of yourself. Because waiting on other people to take accountability, sometimes you'll be waiting till eternity. You'll be waiting forever. So, do you. I hope this video was helpful, y'all. Thanks so much for listening. Peace.